Oh wait, I'm here. Wait,
Yeah, you just jumped off now. Are you jumping up and down?
I'm in the air.
Oh, now you're swimming in the air.
Yeah, me too. Oh,
Me too.
Okay, get on. Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about Far Cry 5. Now I want to preface this by saying lately I have been enjoying Far Cry 5 a lot. I've been playing it entirely co-op with one of my friends, so I haven't played any of it single player, but the single player and co-op in this one are the exact same. You're pretty much in the same exact world. One player joins the other, and then you're just playing co-op, but it's still the single player, campaign. It's not like the co-op campaign. And it's been a lot of fun, that just whether we're doing some of the story missions or just completely messing around trying to kill as many people as possible or try to find like mountains to like jump our truck off of, then we can like jump out and like hang glide and just attempting to do a bunch of stuff. And what Far Cry 5 does really, really well, especially in co-op, and this one is just give you a lot of stuff to do. It definitely feels like a game that you kind of have to make your own fun a little bit. I mean, obviously there are missions and quests and stuff like that, but for me personally, most of the fun is whether we're on the way to a quest or, we're not at all. It's just kind of us messing around rather than doing the missions and the quests, because although Far Cry 5, I'm saying really good things about it. I'm saying it's really fun to play. I don't think it's that great of a game. I think it's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's a game that we should really be praising, because there's a lot of wrong with the game, and I've heard a lot of reviewers talk about kind of the feelings I'm having. They're like, I mean, the game was fun, but, the game's not the best. It's kind of just the typical Ubisoft game. They make the same type of game over and over and over. Sometimes they make a misstep here and there. Like a lot of people didn't like Far Cry Primal. But overall they make kind of steady, little small improvements for the game. But every game that comes out, so the next Far Cry game that comes out, you'll kind of know what to expect. It'll play the exact same as all these other games. It'll just be in a different location, but you'll be doing the same thing and the gameplay will be the same. So when you buy a, kind of, especially Ubisoft games, you kind of know what you're getting. There's not like a whole, there's not a lot of innovation in it. And, there's nothing wrong with that inherently. I'm saying that I'm enjoying Far Cry 5. If someone asked me to recommend it, I would recommend the game. It's not that great of a game. And one of the, I have a lot of really nitpicky things that I kind of want to talk about, and some of the reasons why I don't think Far Cry 5 is that great, but overall, kind of just like I've been saying, the overall, if I had to choose like one main point, besides all the nitpicky things of why I don't think Far Cry 5 is, that spectacular, is just simply that it doesn't offer a lot, it doesn't bring a lot of new things to the table. If you've played this game, you could probably have bought Far Cry 4 and kind of enjoyed it the same amount. Now, if you're wanting to do co-op, obviously Far Cry 5 is technically the best Far Cry for co-op, because they've been improving Far Cry. Some of the older Far Cries, it was like you could play, but you couldn't play story missions, so you can only do side missions and stuff like that. And then sometimes the progress didn't carry over, and it was all this weird stuff. But now in Far Cry 5 you can play the entire campaign with each other, but this is where it starts to get nitpicky. The game, I don't understand how it doesn't, they don't know how to work co-op in still. And I'm going to take an example of this, because in Borderlands, the original Borderlands, made a very long time ago, it worked co-op perfectly. I mean, it helped that the game was kind of intended for co-op, but you could, single player versus co-op, it didn't matter. You had your character, and all the save data was on your character. So if you were playing in single player and you got to level 15 and you did all these quests by yourself or whatever, and then you joined a co-op, you joined your friend and they were playing, and you leveled up more and you got gear and you completed more quests, and then you go back to single player after that, all the quests you completed in that co-op are completed in your single player, because the data is saved on the character. Your character understands what he's done, what, how much XP he has, what you've leveled up, what guns you have, and it just works seamlessly. You don't even think about it. But in Far Cry 5, although if you play with someone, your guns and your levels, or not levels, but your perks carry over. So if you buy a weapon in someone's co-op game in Far Cry 5 and you go to single player, you'll still have that weapon. The problem is there are so many things like weapons and vehicles that are tied to progression, like story progression. And what I mean by that is there's pretty much the way the story works in Far Cry 5 is there's three different areas, and each area has a bunch of different random story missions that you could do and a bunch of random side missions, and innocent civilians you can kind of protect and rescue, and you don't have to do like these story missions like one after another. They're just kind of sprawled out, and it's just like, hey, this is a story mission, this is a story mission, and they give you more it fills a bar, and there's like a bunch of different checkpoints in that bar, and once you complete the bar, kind of like your notoriety of the cult in that area and stuff like that, that's when you beat that area, kind of. And the problem with it, one nitpicky thing that's not about co-op, is in that like notoriety bar of the cult in that area, there's like 3 check marks, like 3 kind of checkpoints that you get. So, you do a story mission, you get 100, notoriety to the bar or whatever. You rescue someone, you get 50, You do this side mission, you get 100. Do this main story mission, you get 200 or whatever. And once you pass a checkpoint, the game kidnaps you, and that's how it progresses through the story. So, if you think about it like movies and video games, that you see the kind of, main character getting kidnapped trope a lot. And overall, it's fine. It can add a lot of things to that, but normally it's only one time. And if it happens a second time in the movie, there's normally a very good reason why they kidnap you a second time, and, it normally is really important for the plot. But I have never seen a game or any other form of medium where the main character gets kidnapped so many times, because each time you hit a checkpoint in that bar, you get kidnapped, and then you just escape. And that's how it progresses the story. And that happens quite a lot of times because there's 3 different areas, 3 checkpoints each. That's around 9 kidnaps. So it's just mind-blowing to me how they think that, because I kind of like the idea of them not saying, okay, you have to do this story mission, this one particular thing here, and then do this one particular thing. And yeah, you can do some side missions or whatever, but you still have to follow this line. Because in Far Cry 5, they're like, yeah, no, there's a couple story missions, but you don't really have to do them. There's just, we're telling you there's story missions, and you could do really whatever you want. You could do like no story missions and just keep on rescuing like people you find on the side of the road, and then you could beat that area. It would take a long time, but you could do it. So I understand that that's kind of how they're making that system work, but the fact that it's just getting kidnapped every time and you just escape every time, it definitely gets annoying. And how they kidnap you is they shoot you with these like bliss bullets, and supposedly if you get hit a single time by a bliss bullet, then you kind of like go out, like you kind of just faint, and they capture you. But it doesn't make any sense. Like, one of my friends, he was saying when he was in his single player world, he just jumped off something, he took fall damage, and because he was in the kidnap event, it counted that fall damage as being blissed, and then he fainted. I mean, you can have times where, the first time it happened to me, I was in a town, so everyone in the town was helping us, and they were shooting him, and no one was getting near me, but because I got shot a single time at the beginning, I fainted, and got kidnapped, supposedly. And it definitely gets a little annoying, because you can just get kidnapped while you're hang gliding up in the air. You can get kidnapped while you're flying a plane up in the air. So that's a little annoying, and it's really ridiculous. But that doesn't really pertain to co-op, and it doesn't happen all the time. But what does happen all the time, going back into co-op, is talking about that notoriety bar. As an example, one of the first weapons that my friend wanted to buy, because he had joined me, so technically I was hosting the game. He had joined me, and we got to notoriety level 1. It was our first little checkpoint. And, the kidnap event happened or whatever, and, then we escaped, and we were back to open world. And there was a weapon that said you could only buy it if you had gotten that first checkpoint of, notoriety or whatever. And, apparently, even though my friend was in our game, he was involved with all of that, he couldn't buy it because it said he didn't have the notoriety. So what he ended up having to do, and what he still has to do, is because there's so many weapons and vehicles like that, is say we get to a point like that, he then has to go play single player, on his own time to get up to that point because he wants to buy those guns and vehicles. And it's ridiculous because I don't understand how the game, if a game like Borderlands could do it all the way back then and just recognize simply, like, all they would have had to do would be like, okay, your character has completed this checkpoint of notoriety or whatever, anything like that. And that way he could have bought those guns, because otherwise he just can't get them, and that's ridiculous. So although it's like they're saying, oh, you know, everything, you know, weapons and perks and vehicles is all transitioned to, you know, your single player, although that's technically true, so many of the vehicles and weapons are story relevant, or, you know, have little like checkpoints, like you can't buy this until you get 2 bars of notoriety, or, you know, whatever. And you know, I think it might be called reputation, I'm not sure, but it's just so ridiculous that it doesn't understand how that works. And it's really annoying. And another kind of small problem I have with Far Cry 5, and this is getting like really nitpicky, is I feel like it tries to make you care too much about the characters. Like, there'll be times where you're doing a random mission and then the character just keeps talking and talking and talking about this tragic thing that happened to him, but like there's no reason we should care for them. You know, the things they're saying happened don't really sound realistic and stuff like that. And I feel like they're trying too hard to make the villains like, ooh, the charismatic villain, like in, you know, Far Cry 3, you know, trying to, because that villain was cool, and I feel like everyone really liked it, and so they're trying to just kind of recreate it, and it's very annoying. But overall, what it mainly comes down to is, although Far Cry 5 can be a really fun sandbox to play and mess around in, and you know, kind of do all this stuff, it doesn't bring anything new to the table. You could play Far Cry 4 or 3 and get the same exact experience for the most part. You know, in terms of the theme, I kind of like the theme a little bit, but there's still things like, why are there still just captured animals in a lot of the outposts? Like, it doesn't really make sense why the people would be capturing these. You know, that doesn't make any sense. Whereas if you're in the jungle and they captured a tiger, that I could maybe understand that. But, you know, they are slowly improving the formula, but it's, so obviously I would say Far Cry 5 is the best Far Cry, but I don't see much that it does that really makes me be like, hey, yeah, no, this is a great game. It's a good game, and there's nothing wrong with it just being a good game. But I feel like if they want to continue, you know, having fans still really like their games, they need to start innovating a little bit more, and at the very least figure out co-op. I still don't understand. I just get triggered every time I think about it, how they still can't figure out how co-op needs to work. Just look at a very old game, Borderlands, or there's tons of games that do co-op better than they do, and that's really annoying, because you know, I'm mainly playing it in co-op just because it's kind of fun to have a friend to mess around with. But either way, that's what I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, just kind of my opinions on Far Cry 5. But I'd love to hear your guys's. You know, like I've said before, you know, one of the favorite parts about making these videos is not only, you know, talking, you know, at you guys, but, you know, kind of having a conversation with you guys. So if you guys have any thoughts on Far Cry 5, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I, you know, read all the comments, everything like that. I love responding to you guys and stuff like that. But if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content and news. Videos come out every Wednesday and Sunday, and it really helps out the channel. But anyways, like always, guys, have a great rest of the day, and see you guys next time.